Hi, grade 10s. I thought I'd start this video in a slightly different way because I think it's getting a little bit tedious. So what am I today? I am a mitochondria. Okay, so let's go through the structure of mitochondria. All right, go on to the PowerPoint. Okay, there we go. And I've even brought my little models and things. I've got a whole bag of them from school. Okay, so the textbook has the mitochondria notes in the textbook on page 46. So if you remember now, there are prokaryotes and there are eukaryotic cells. Okay, so bacteria are prokaryotes. Remember, they don't have any organelles, no nucleus, so they won't have mitochondria, etc. But we know that mitochondria are where cellular respiration takes place. So where do bacteria break down their sugars? Well, they actually break it down across the membranes, okay, because they're very simple. They were one of the first types of organisms to evolve on Earth. All right, so I've said here, mitochondria occur in the cytoplasm of most cells, but not red blood cells. So when they leave the bone marrow, because remember, red blood cells are made in the bone marrow, we're going to look at that when we do mitosis. The nucleus is broken down and the mitochondria, and that makes more space for hemoglobin, and hemoglobin helps the cells to carry oxygen, and red blood cells only live for about 3 months, 2 to 3 months anyway, so they get replaced. So it's okay if they don't have a nucleus in mitochondria because they only last for a certain amount of time. And bacteria and blue-green algae, bacteria that have some kind of pigment to help them photosynthesize, they are prokaryotes. So they don't have mitochondria, whereas red blood cells are eukaryotic cells where the mitochondria and the nucleus break down. So generally, mitochondria are rod-shaped organelles. Okay, this model was made for me many, many years ago. It's made of wood. And mitochondria are surrounded by a double membrane. So you can see here, the pink on the outside, that's the smooth outer membrane. So now remember membranes, it's the 2 layers of phospholipids with the cholesterol and the proteins. Now that's what nuclear membranes are made out of, endoplasmic reticulum membranes, mitochondrial membrane. So, and the inner membrane of a mitochondrion is folded inwards to form these little extensions called cristae. So crista would be one, but there are many crista here, and it's all about increasing the surface area so that lots of chemical reactions can happen, because this mitochondrion has to break down glucose to provide energy for the cell. That's what cellular respiration is. All right, so certain cells in the body, the brain, the muscle cells, the liver cells, they will have lots of mitochondria because they're very active cells. They need to make lots of energy. All right, now the diagram I'm going to show you just now, but at the bottom here, you can see there's a little cell, there's the nucleus, and they've drawn all these little mitochondria in green. We know that mitochondria are not green, neither are they pink. Oh, just one thing to mention here. Between the 2 membranes, there's a mitochondrial space. Okay, but you don't need to know that. And then attached to the outer surface, there would be lots of little, when this model was made, there were lots of little hundreds and thousands attached to the outside. I've actually just drawn some little dots now. And those would be all the enzymes and the particles involved in the cell respiration reaction. And there would be lots of them on the inside as well. Okay, now there's a computer-generated diagram of what a mitochondrion looks like, if you could see through it. So you can see the smooth outer membrane, and then the inner membrane is folded to form those cristae, more surface area for chemical reactions. In grade 11, you learn about how cellular respiration takes place. The reactions actually start in the cytoplasm, and then in the actual space here, the space inside the mitochondrion, and then some reactions take place across the membranes, and then eventually ATP is produced. All right, there's similar to my model. Okay, that's a little 3D image of what a mitochondrion looks like. All right, now this is a longitudinal section, and through a mitochondrion, it's an electron micrographs. You can see the outer membrane and the inner membrane. but you can't see everything very clearly because it's a tiny little organelle that has been cut right through. Now, mitochondria have a few other things. Okay, so I could actually, yeah, I've got a piece of pipe cleaner here, so I could coil that up and put it inside. So this little mitochondrion has got its own DNA. And then if I put little beads inside here, it's got its own ribosome. So the DNA is going to instruct the mitochondrion what proteins to make. And the proteins that it's going to make are the enzymes which control the process of cellular respiration, breaking down glucose using oxygen. So they have their own DNA, their own genes on the DNA control the production of proteins at the ribosomes in the middle here. Now this space inside is called the lumen. A space is always called the lumen. And just like there's cytoplasm on the outside of the mitochondrion, this is going to be filled with a liquid jelly-like substance, and that is called the matrix. So the matrix fills the lumen space, and in that lumen space will be the DNA, and imagine little beads in here. That would be those would be the ribosomes, and that's where protein synthesis to make the enzymes would occur. All right, so here's my diagram. So normally I give you this diagram and then we add labels in class. So if you look here, cytoplasm on the edge, and then you've got inner membrane and outer membrane. Smooth outer membrane, inner membrane is folded to form those cristae, singular is crista. The lumen, the space inside, is filled with, similar to cytoplasm, all right? And there would be lots of enzymes and particles and ribosomes there, and it's called the matrix. There's the loop of DNA, which would control what enzymes are made by the mitochondrion, so they can actually make what they need, all right? And I'll tell you a little story about that later on. So there's the ribosomes, that's where the proteins are made to control cell respiration. And like I said, there used to be hundreds and thousands attached to this, glued onto this, and those represent the particles and enzymes that help the process of cellular respiration, all right? There you can see an enlargement of that. And that's simply because some reactions occur in the cytoplasm, others occur in the matrix, and the last set of reactions occur across the membrane. Now, we simplified in grade 10, so we know that we breathe in oxygen and we break down carbs into glucose, and they arrive at the cells in the blood, and then they diffuse through the cells and through the mitochondrial membranes and into the mitochondrial matrix, and that is where cellular respiration takes place. But in grade 11, we really, we do it more accurately. This is very simplified. And then as a result of cell respiration, ATP energy is made, because when that glucose molecule is broken down, when all those hydrogens are broken off, you might remember from term 1, those hydrogens, when they're broken off, that energy that was holding them onto the glucose molecule is released, and that's converted into a form of energy that cells can use, and that is called ATP. And we don't need to remember that it's called adenosine triphosphate. And carbon dioxide and CO2 are given off as waste products. So just to remind you, I have given a summary of the cellular respiration reaction at the bottom here. So glucose is broken down using oxygen to produce energy, and all these reactions are controlled by enzymes, and then CO2 and water vapor are given off as waste products, and that energy can be used by the cell so that the organism can grow, so it can move. So for example, a muscle cell contracts, etc. Okay, there's many different reasons why your cells need to make energy. All right, but now in reality, it's not just one simple reaction like this. There's about, 80 different reactions that occur, some in the cytoplasm, some in that matrix, and some of them across the membranes, which you're going to learn about in grade 11. So I like these pictures. Okay, these are electron micrographs. These are mitochondria. Those are all the cristae on the inside, and here as well. Look at all of that. So this cell is a really energetic cell. It needs lots of energy. There's the little cristae, all right? The darker space in between, that's the matrix where the enzymes and the ribosomes and the DNA are found. And this is really nice, but they've added color. So it's a color-enhanced electron micrograph. You can see the outer membrane of the mitochondrion on all the little cristae traversing across. Now, you might wonder why do some, when you see pictures, why do some mitochondria look around like that, or why do they look long? Now, that's easy, because if you look at a mitochondrion, they generally are oval in shape, so that's the long shape. So if I had to cut all the way through here, I would see lots of cristae, but if I cut this way, then you would see the round shape, and there would be some, fewer cristae across the cross section. So that's longitudinal section, cutting through this way, like cutting right through the middle of a butternut. That would be a cross section or a transverse section, okay? And that's my story for now. So next time we'll look at ER, Golgi body, and ribosomes. And you must please remember to always look at your textbook, always look at Google, see what you need to do, and please start going through the work, because I haven't given you a worksheet yet, but that is coming. Okay, we just need to get through the rest of these organelles, and then you can start doing the worksheet. And please watch the videos. Okay, I've chosen them very specifically, that they're just enough for grade, or mostly just enough for grade 10. So if there are other words in there that we haven't talked about or that aren't mentioned, then don't worry. And please go through. I'm not going to make a video of this again like I did yesterday, but please go through page 2 of that summary table, where it outlines everything about the nucleus and about the mitochondria. It's basically the same as I've said today, but it's a nice way to have a summary on one page. All right, my story is finished.